Hey guys, Torque17 here, coming at you with another episode of Star Citizen 101. In this video, we're going to be talking about the HUD, the heads-up display on our spaceships, and the basics on how to interact with them and how to interpret the information that it's giving you. So with no further ado, let's hop right into our ships and start talking about the heads-up display. All right, guys. So we find ourselves in free flight mode, and what we're going to be talking about today is the HUD and the basics on your HUD. And essentially, the HUD comes with four main components. The first one being your combat visor interface, or your CVI. So if I go ahead and hit left control and tab, hold those, and move my mouse around, you'll see that some items here are following my head around. So essentially, it's all the information displayed on your augmented reality of your helmet. There's also a fixed HUD, which is the second component, which is located right here on the center panel of your ship, and that stays fixed in this panel, and it displays some interesting information as well. These are the two main parts of the HUD that we're going to talk about today. There are two not so interactive and important parts of your HUD, and the first one that we're going to talk about is the interchangeable system display. And the interchangeable system display is these little displays down here, and basically the information that these type of things will be displaying really aren't in the game yet. They currently just display your fuel quantity and your throttle, which are actually already displayed on your fixed panel, and we'll go into that in a little more detail later. But I'm assuming later in the game we'll be able to fix other things to these displays in the future, as well as your trans-directional awareness system, which is essentially just your radar that's right here. So let's go ahead and talk about the CVI first. And what's located on your CVI is a lot of information. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the left side of your HUD, and you see the little image of your spaceship there. So it shows the shields on all four panels, as well as there's little triangles there. Those are components on your ship, and just the overall outline of your ship. So as things take damage, your shields will disappear, items will turn yellow to orange to red, and possibly even disappear if they're completely destroyed, as well as just ship's components, for example, a wing or that tail part there will turn from yellow to orange to red, and then eventually just disappear and fall off if that's what happened. Just below that, below the line, you see G1, G2, G3. That's actually your power systems. So G1 represents power to weapons, G2 represents power to shields, G3 represents engines and thrusters. And how to interact with those, you go ahead and press the one button, not on your numpad, but the one button just on your keyboard to raise power to weapons for 1, shields and avionics for 2, and engines and thrusters will raise to 3. So they start out at this even 33% for each, and you can go back to even by pressing the 0 button as well. So that's how you do that. So if you want to add a little bit more to your shield, you can kind of tap it, or a little more to your weapons, excuse me, you can tap it. A little more to your shield, you can tap it. A little more to your engines, you could tap it. Then right below that is the weapons display. So it displays the number of rounds if you have ballistic weapons, which I don't currently have any on me at the moment. And then it also represents the power percentage going to the weapon, and then it'll also give you an overheat display. So I'm going to go ahead and lay on my weapons here a little bit, and it'll show you eventually that they're going to get overheated. And you can see that on the right side that it's starting to show up there. My Bulldog repeaters are starting to get overheated quite a bit. And as you can see, as they get overheated and as less power gets to them, you'll see their rate of fire slows down. And if you hold them on the overheat for too long, eventually they will start to get damaged. And there's the overheat warning there. So that's an important thing to pay attention to, because if you hold on to your weapons too long and they don't have enough power to them, they're not going to fire at a very high rate. And if you're not firing at a high rate, you're not really going to kill anybody. And just below that, it shows your missiles. So it tells you what type of missile it is and how many you have. And there's different symbols for each missile. So the current missile that I have on are infrared. So, you know, the flame. So it represents that it tracks heat. There is, just above your ship, you see overview, weapons, power, and shields. So you can interact with those other tabs by using your F keys. So F1 is your overview, which is the one that we're on currently. F2 is your weapons tab, which we're going to go check out now. So that still shows you the damage states to your ship. And then you can also kind of change your weapons groups at the moment. I actually don't recommend this because it is slightly screwy at this current time. But how you interact with your weapons here, as you can see, they're not even showing up, which is weird. I obviously have weapons on my ship. I just shot them. If you go ahead and press the home key on your keyboard, it'll start bringing them up, and you can interact with them with the mouse or the arrow keys on your keyboard. But as you can see, they kind of skip all over the place. If you move your arrow key to the right, it hops over weapons, and if you move it to the left, it goes to the other ones that you hop up. So you can interact with it, but it's not very simple and easy to use. And basically what you can do is add certain weapons to certain groups by clicking on this little blue box here. And again, it's not very intuitive. It won't let me click certain weapons, even though I want those added to a group. And you can add up to 3 groups. So if you have 3 firing mechanisms, say on a joystick, or if you want to use 3 buttons on your mouse to fire certain weapons, then you can set them to certain groups. But at the moment, it's not very useful. You can also go ahead and go down to the missile tab. And if you click it a couple times, it will actually automatically lock on 8 missiles, that little blue number there that was raising. When I lock a missile on, it will automatically lock on 8 now instead of 1. So I don't have to click it 8 times. I can just click it once, and it'll automatically fire all the missiles. And again, these are infrared missiles. If I had cross-section missiles, they would be displayed here. If I had electromagnetic signature missiles, I think that's what they're called, they would be right here. Sorry if I didn't get that one right. The next tab, we can go ahead and press F3 to get to the power tab. So this one's pretty cool. The first thing, again, you still have your damage displayed there. The next thing is the power throttle. So I'm still interacting with my HUD with the home key. I don't believe you can set a hotkey for the power throttle at the moment, but what you can do is you can click it, hold, and kind of move your mouse around. See how I'm lowering it? And that will lower my power all the way to 0.
Systems overheating.
And then you can see everything turns off. Things start overheating because my cooling systems aren't working.
Systems overheating.
And things just start going offline eventually. And I can raise it back up and everything is powered again. And similar to the power allocation on the overview screen, this will be represented right here. So again, you can now take the mouse and move them to G1, G2, G3, or just in between. It's a little bit more easy to position your power in a place that you want it. Now, if I go ahead and press the home key again, you can use those number keys.
Offline. Weapon system activated.
And I just learned something just now as well, so we can kind of go through that in this menu right here. If you go ahead and press the number 4, when I believe it's either in the overview or any menu,
Weapon system
it is.
Offline.
If you press the number 4, it will turn all of your weapons off.
Weapon system activated.
But let's go ahead and stay on the power menu. If you go ahead and press 5,
Shield generator offline.
it will turn your shield generator off.
Shield generator activated. Shields charging. Propulsion offline.
If you hit 6, it will turn your engines off. So I'll have no propulsion, I cannot move anywhere. And the reason for doing this is
Propulsion activated.
it's not very useful at the moment, but the reason for doing this is, let's go ahead and move our CVI. Look at the very bottom right of our screen when we use these things, okay? I'm going to move my CVI up to an appropriate little level there. Now, as you can see, at the very bottom right of our screen, you see IR, and it says 450, 440, and it's going up, it's going down, and then your ambient level 2, and then at the very right side, you can see your EM. Those represent your IR signature, so how much heat you're putting out, and your EM signature, which is how much kind of energy you're putting out there, right? And this is how ships' radars work. They look for those signatures out there. This is how missiles lock on, all those things. So if you go ahead and power off all your systems,
Propulsion offline.
you can see that my EM signature went way down and my RIR signature went way, way down. So in the future, when you're trying to be stealthy, when you're in bigger maps and you don't want to be located by people's radar, you can kind of turn off a few systems to improve your signatures and try not to get located. If you're kind of camping, continuing on with the left side of our HUD and then take them out, this is the way to do it. And then you can quickly, power everything on by hitting 4, 5, and 6, and then boom, you're ready to go. And all of a sudden you've ambushed somebody. So I thought that's pretty cool as well. So let's go ahead and head over to the last tab on the left side of our CVI, which is the Shields tab. And that represents, again, the status of your shields. As you can see in the damage window that we still have above, you can see my shields slowly coming back. And then just below that, you can see that similar to the power, the shields have a kind of movable ability. I can shift power to the front of the shields, left of the shields, right of the shields, your back shields. So I press now this is when we use the numpad. So if I press the 8 on the numpad, it will move my shields forward. And again, you can see sort of the percentage there below and how much power is going towards the front of the shield. If I hit the number 6 on the numpad, it will move it right. The number 2 on the numpad will move it back. The number 4 on the numpad will move it to the left. And if I hit the number 5, it will center everything. So again, that is the left side of the CVI. And then we're going to go ahead and go to another scene to move to the right side of the CVI. All right, before we get started on the right side of the screen, I did miss something on the overview screen on the left side. So here's our standard overview screen. If I go ahead and press home, it will bring up the power options there, and you can interact with it with your mouse. Here, if I can get it on screen, by, you can turn off weapons by clicking the power there, turn on weapons, or you can interact with them with the arrow keys, on your keyboard. So let's go ahead and power everything back on and go ahead and start talking about the right side of the screen. And another thing I want to note is that when you are using the home button and you're interacting with your HUD, you cannot direct your ship around. Okay? So, if you're using mouse and keyboard, the way to target using your HUD is by pressing T. T is for hostiles. Y is to cycle through all the possible targets, friendlies and hostiles. And U is something that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So, the right side of the screen, let's go ahead and get into a darker part of the map so we can go ahead and see it really well. The right side of the screen represents anything that you're targeting. So it shows its damage states, its shields, how far away it is from you, as well as its name. Then right below that, it shows its EM, IR, and cross-section missiles. Cross-section signatures, not missiles. I got my CS missiles on my mind still from version 1.1.3. So on your HUD, which is part of your CVI, there is the targets. So the ones with the little, You know, the lines that aren't quite connected, those are ships that your radar recognizes that you're not locked onto. The little arrow in front of them tells you the direction that they're flying in, as you can see with my co-pilot there. When you're locked onto a pilot or anything, the big arrow shows the direction they're flying in, and the lock represents what you see here. You can also lock missiles onto them, which is represented like that. You can lock as many as you want to, up to the amount of missiles that you have. On your HUD, your missiles are represented as well. You'll see them pop across the screen right there, just like that, with those triangles spinning. Those are missiles. Okay, and those are not just your missiles. You can see any player's missiles fired on screen just like that. Right, so again, getting back to the right side, to pin a target, you go ahead and press G. And G will pin a target, and you can pin multiple targets. So let's lock on to our co-pilot Vixen there, and you can see now I have 2 targets located on the right side of my screen there. And you can cycle through pin targets by pressing U. So you can cycle back and forth that way. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the target reticles. So this is located on the fixed part of our screen, which we will be getting into in more detail in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and let the next wave pop in here. And when it does, I will show you the target reticles and a little bit about each one. So there are hostiles. I'll lock onto one. Get as close as we can. The target reticles for you to be able to attack another ship will not pop up until you are in range. So there it goes, pops up right there. You can see there's a triangle and a square. The triangle's red, the square just turned into a big circle. It means that you're close enough that you can be a little more accurate with it. Or if you just get one big circle, it means that both of your weapons are within good enough range that they will all hit the same spot. But the most important thing you have to pay attention to is which type you're looking at. So they have a bunch of different types, and I'm going to go ahead and show them on screen now. Alright, so all the pictures on screen represent some information that your pips are trying to relay to you. So the top row is a bunch of shapes. So the shapes represent certain types of weapons that you have on your ship and that you're going to be targeting with. So the triangle represents ballistic cannons. The diamond represents ballistic repeaters, and ballistics are physical weapons, so they actually have ammo rounds that are being fired at a ship. The square is a laser repeater, and the circle is a laser cannon. And lasers are not physical-based weapons. They're, lasers from typical science fiction, and they will, drain power and overheat, but they will not run out of ammo. Now, the kind of red circle there represents a pip that is out of range. So the circle is a laser cannon that's out of range, but all the other pips will, turn red or something like that to represent that they're out of range. The little X there on screen represents a hit indicator. You've seen that before on every MLG video posted on YouTube in history. The circle with the little yellow lines around it represents the fire indicator. So anytime you're firing your weapons, it will represent that way. And the picture at the bottom represents a lag pip in action. So essentially, you're going to be trying to place those shapes onto a ship. Or, an example of a lead indicator, you're going to try to hit your crosshairs on the shapes. So, the reason that I'm showing that is because some weapons fire at a higher speed than others. So, in order for them to hit a certain ship, you have to place it in a certain area. And if one weapon is much slower or much faster than the other, they're not going to hit the ship at the same spot at the same time. So, sometimes, in order to save ammo, or to, for example, take down shields before you use your physical weapons on someone's armor, you're going to want to pay attention to which shape is which and know which weapon you're firing. So if you have a, ballistic cannon on weapons group 1 and you have a laser repeater on weapons group 2, you're probably going to want to hit the ship with your laser repeaters to take down its shields, and then start firing the ballistic cannon at its armor, because you don't want to waste ammo on shields when you can, do the most damage to their armor that way. It's very important that you understand what all the shapes mean, what the pip is relaying to you, because in combat, it's really a lot of information there that you can use in order to effectively destroy your opponents. All right, now we're back in Free Flight to talk more about the fixed HUD display, which again is located in this middle panel here. And what it represents is a lot of the kind of flight components. So how fast you're going, how much boost you have left, all your IFCS things, so the things that aid your ship in flying, as well as how many countermeasures that you have left. So the throttle is located right here, and let's go ahead and throttle up. You'll see it go up slowly to 100%. And just to the left of that, it represents the actual speed that you're going in meters per second. Just above that, you can see the boost and how much I have left. So if I go ahead and boost, you'll see that slowly lower there. Let's go ahead and turn around. And then you can also see it slowly raise. Now, all the way below at the bottom right here is the thrust, the levels of thrust. So since I'm not putting any thrust into my ship and my ship is just moving, the thrust is at 0. When I go ahead and boost and move in certain directions, you can see the thrust on my maneuvering thrusters there being used. Now, let's move our ship up a little bit here. On the right side of the fixed display you can see that I've chosen my flares. Now, flares are how you remove the countermeasure for infrared missiles. So that's why the countermeasure display is the same as the missile type that it removes. So if I go ahead and press X, online, it will move to the chaff display. And again, how to use your countermeasures. Hold on, we're kind of going towards the end of the map here. How to use your countermeasures is with Z. So if I go ahead and press Z, it's going to fire some chaff out. Now, pressing X again and switching to flares, I'll fire a flare. And that's how you use countermeasures to remove missiles from your ship. And that's really just the basics of the fixed display. As you can see with the Aurora HUD, it's very different from the Hornet HUD, and they're going to be going into more ship-based HUDs like this in the future, and I think overall, for every ship, it will have a unique HUD, or at least every ship company will have a unique HUD, and the Aurora was the first example of them, doing a unique HUD here in Star Citizen. So, as you can see, a lot of the information that was displayed on the CVI doesn't follow with me on the Aurora HUD. It stays on these panels here. So the Aurora is a very, basic starter ship, so they're not going to go into crazy detail with it. You can interact with the HUD similar to how we did in the Hornet here using the home keys. You can go ahead and move around your power management as well using the number keys on your keyboard, and your shields using the number keys on your numpad. And same with the 4, 5, and 6. And you can hear the HUD talking to you there. So pretty cool stuff. I think it is one of the coolest HUDs, maybe because it's just unique, it's exciting and fun to look at, but I really love the Aurora HUD, and I'm super excited to see where they go with other HUDs in the future. I think the next HUD that we're going to see, besides the Merlin that I'm about to show you now, is the Retaliator HUD, is the next unique HUD that we're going to see flyable in-game, and you can check that out on the Star Citizen YouTube page with their most recent video on the multi-crew demo. So alright, let's switch over to the Merlin. Alright, so this is the Merlin HUD, which is actually really, really cool. So this is probably starting to become one of my probably my favorite HUD now. And one of the reasons being is the radar. I think it's much, much easier to use this top-down radar system that they went with for the Merlin. Now this is considered to be, again, a kind of smaller, more basic HUD setup compared to some of the more bigger and elaborate ships that we're going to have in the future. But to be honest, simple's easy to use, and simple's usually sometimes the better way to go than making things more complex for a user. So again, you can interact with this HUD using the home key, and you can turn weapons on, turn them off. You can cycle through your weapons here, set them to different groups in the HUD, which is pretty cool. This is a much more simple to use display than the Hornet that we were talking about before. Again, power, same thing. You got your throttle, and you got your little circle that you can move around to allocate power. Over here is your open dock for, I'm assuming, pin targets, and then there's multiple targets on your target HUD section there. There's the damage states of your ship. Now this is a little wonky. It kind of sometimes will show like a big white box on either side, actually. And then your shield status. Now this shield does not have right or left side shields. It only has front and back. So, you're going to use your 8 key, or you're going to use your 5 key. Or your 2 key, excuse me, and your 5 to set it back to normal. And then it has your EM and IR signatures right below, right down here. And then most of the things that would normally have been on your fixed HUD for your Hornet is going to be, of course, fixed right here. And again, another example of the CVI not really being present here in this ship, as shown right here. Everything's sort of fixed on the ship. To be honest, kind of prefer this. It is a really, really cool HUD. I love the little panel of glass that your meters per second, your IFCS, and your thrust level, your fuel quantity, and all that stuff being on that section. I don't know, I just really like the way it looks. It's super cool. So these are the 2 unique HUDs that we have at the moment, and again, hopefully more in the future. And again, these are the 2 unique HUDs that we have at the moment. So I hope you guys like this video. If you like this video, please like it. If you dislike it, you know what to do. If your feelings aren't just a thumbs up and a thumbs down, go ahead and comment on the video. If you haven't checked out my Twitch stream, head over to twitch.tv/torque17. And if you're looking for more videos like this in the future, guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all next time.